Hi everyone, I'm Bishop Orley and welcome to Cyber Witch, my channel about the occult, demonology, and my life as a professional witch here in New Orleans. So if that sounds good to you, then please hit like and subscribe for new videos every week. Today I really am getting into some of the most asked questions in the occult, which is seeing demons, seeing spirits. How do you actually do that? What do demons and spirits actually look like? Can we actually manifest spirits in the room where we can really see them? And how does that even work? And of course, if you are doing real magic, you totally can accomplish this. However, it is not something that is just easy to suddenly do. This is stuff that you have to take time to learn and build, just like any skill, unless you were born with such kinds of gifts. And of course, some people are. Myself and a lot of other people that I've come in contact with have seen things like apparitions, spirits, ghosts, strange life forms that were non-human, even from an early age. And so having those type of experiences in your past is actually a really good way to know that you do have these skills already within you, and we are constantly living in a world that is trying to cut us off from these senses, especially when we're younger. The mind is a lot more open and we don't have this hardening of our perception where we think things have to be a certain way and other things are impossible, because when you think of things like that, it will actually cut you off from being able to experience beyond the veil, because we're taking an active role in our perception of things. So what's really important is to not give up. A lot of people come to me for help and they'll have had experiences of seeing spirits around them when they were younger, and then maybe they lost those abilities. So just know that because you've experienced it, that's really the most important thing, because really, truly, the hardest part is knowing that it's real. And that can be very difficult if you've never experienced it. And I have mentioned before in the past that I was very much like against any kind of spiritual stuff, religion. I was very much like an atheist because I had a very strict religious upbringing, and I totally rebelled against that. So I started having all these experiences where it became very apparent to me that these things were definitely real. And then I didn't have to like force myself to believe in something. But if you're coming at it from the angle of not ever having these kind of experiences at all, but you would like to, it can be a bit daunting to just open your mind up and agree to whatever might change in your reality and shift it. And that's very difficult to do, especially because when these things happen, it's most likely going to happen when you're not trying to make it happen. When it comes to seeing spirits outside of a ritual setting. Because the whole idea behind the ritual is that we're calling the spirit to us. So if it's outside of it, then it's usually going to be something that's kind of random and outside of your control. And then there's so many facets that go into that of what type of spirit it is, so you might not even know. And there's going to be different ways that, depending on what kind of spirit it is, could be easier to manifest, like in regards to what element it's based in, for example. So for the sake of us learning about what demons and spirits look like and how to see them, let's talk about rituals, which is the idea of putting together some kind of ceremony, where we are going to call these spirits to us, to have a communion with them, and to evoke them, to conjure them. Not within us, but outside of us, in some way or space that we can see. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do this, but there are a few basic principles in how you arrange your ritual that can make it easier for you to see spirits. So there are things you can do in your ritual setup to make it easier for spirits to appear. So for example, a lot of people will use some kind of mirror to look at, to see the spirit in, or maybe like a crystal, a stone, a crystal ball, something like that. You don't have to use a black mirror. I have frequently and more often used just regular mirrors. You can draw sigils on the mirror itself, but then you're going to want to cover it up when you're not using it like this because it's now a magic mirror. And the mirror can be quite difficult. One thing to help see things in the mirror is to work on controlling the atmosphere of the room around you. So having the lights dimmed or kind of murky lighting, so things are not exactly crisp, to have more shadows in the mirror. So that's something to consider. And then even having candlelight around the mirror, so it's lit in a way that makes it so the light can play with the mirror and the shadows during the ritual can work together. So it's not just like you staring at yourself in a fully lit room, looking at your face in a mirror, which I have done, in particular with conjuring demons. The way that my teacher was showing me was we would draw the triangle of evocation on the mirror, and then the sigil of the demon would be within that, drawn on the mirror. And you would sit with the triangle around your face like this, with the sigil of the demon over your face. And myself and a lot of other people that I tried this with had some really interesting results. I would find that in these situations, my face itself, looking in this mirror, would dissipate. It would become really cloudy, foggy. My whole face would disappear. And then in the mirror would be some strange looking type of creature, amorphous, changing form. And that's a big thing about the demons, which is they don't really have like some sort of concrete form, and they can take on many different shapes. And that's why in the Goetic conjurations from the Megaton, for example, ask the spirit to take on a human shape so you can interact with that spirit. So they can take on many different shapes. So you might see something that's like a bunch of shifty shapes, but you have to allow yourself to relinquish your vision in ordinary reality and just sort of drop that and let that go. And of course, that's not something that's easy to do. You really want to go into some sort of trance state to be able to do that. So to activate that, doing a ritual for a longer time is really going to be your easiest way, especially if you're new. I definitely would not advise using any kind of substances or drugs as a way to achieve this, to try to like do it faster or to sort of cheat your way into doing it. It's really just going to get in the way of you learning how to do serious magic. One of the biggest problems is that people want to have these kind of manifestations happen quickly in your spiritual practice. And unfortunately, especially if you are new, if you've only been doing witchcraft or practicing occultism, whatever you're calling it, for like a year or a couple of years, you really are new. And that's okay that you can't see these kind of things, because seeing the spirit is not the same as your spell being successful. And that's super important to know. Your spells do not rely on seeing the spirit if you're asking the spirit to help you. Really, you just need to be able to call their energy around, and seeing them is a whole additional thing. So, ways to help you to induce that are going to be add more into your rituals. A lot of times there's just maybe like a paragraph or a page that people are reciting or something like that. And then they're expecting a spirit to just appear in front of them, and like a movie or an anime. But it's not like that. It really is something that takes time, and really losing yourself in the ritual. So what I like to do is have a whole bunch of things that I will recite before I call the spirit that help me to get into that ritual mindset. So, for example, different invocations to your personal power. You can write them. They could be from poems that you enjoy, even lyrics or listening to songs or music that you enjoy before you get started. All these kind of things that will raise your personal energy before you go to call the spirit. I'll typically have a whole bunch of different poems and invocations that I've written that help raise my energy, and I will just keep reciting them until I feel something has changed. Like reality has shifted slightly. Something is different. Something feels a little bit different in the atmosphere of the space around you, and you will notice that shift where you're accessing non-ordinary reality. And the more that you do, the easier it is to slip into that state. Even doing things like walking around in a circle as you recite, or helping your senses get into an altered state of consciousness by changing the lighting to different colors, or the ambiance with things like incense and different smells. So that will also really help you in being able to see the spirits, because you're also really wanting to be thinking about what you're doing to yourself to transform yourself into someone that can easily access non-ordinary reality around you. Because if we were all just seeing like every single thing in the spiritual realm around us all the time, we would be completely insane. So our senses will filter things in and out. And the idea behind doing these rituals is to change that. So that's something to consider. What are you doing to yourself so you can see spirits and demons in your rituals? The way they appear is very strange. The way I've seen demons is often monstrous, twisting, elongated shapes, lots of different faces. I've also seen angelic and planetary spirits appear more like columns of light with floating geometrical shapes inside of them. Very often, the way that spirits will appear to me, if I'm not using some kind of surface to look at them like a mirror or whatever, I will just have a space on the floor that I'm calling the spirits into, and I will look for them in the space cascading up from there. That works very well for me because I prefer to see the spirit in my astral vision than in a mirror. But in regards to the triangle drawn over the face, I was doing it with a person one time where they were scrying the demon and I was evoking the demon. And so this guy was sitting looking at the triangle, and we were actually conjuring Prince Siri because this guy wanted to see a demon and he had never seen one before. And I was like, I can show you a demon. Come to my apartment and I'm going to show you a demon. So, and this was someone that was a magic practitioner, but he also was part of like a group where he wasn't even supposed to be doing Goetia. So it was kind of like on the DL that I was like showing him how to conjure demons. And this was like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years ago. So he comes to my apartment and he's sitting in front of this mirror with a triangle over his face, looking in the mirror. And he told me after that Prince Siri made it so his eye in the reflection just stretched really, really, really big first over across the in front of the triangle. And then it made the triangle like go up and down, up and down, up and down on the mirror as he was sitting there looking in the reflection before turning into the spirit. One of the things that I thought was very interesting back in those days was that so few people were actually working with the Goetia that we could actually say like, hey, I conjured this demon and he appeared to me in this form and he spoke to me in this certain manner. Maybe he really liked to rhyme or was kind of silly or weird in some way. And we could compare these things, and it was such new and fresh territory that it was really exciting to see that the spirits would have inherent qualities that they one another would share. Like they're not always going to appear exactly the same, but they would have some air about them or something that they had about them that would be cohesive across the board. And that is something that you should consider if you're looking at different books that describe what demons and spirits look like. It's really important, first of all, to know that when it comes to the demonic grimoires, a lot of those spirits, first of all, come from books that didn't have a picture or description of it. And a lot of them were just copied from one book to another without the author actually doing the rituals and summoning the demons. So very often things would be like mistranslated, or some part would be changed, or the spirit was never actually conjured and the person just made it up. So you really can't judge things by those, and you want to experiment it for yourself. And I would even suggest like not looking at what the demon is supposed to look like. That's what I would do when I would conjure them with the Ars Goetia, as I would just not look at the book and how the spirit was described to see if what I saw would look like them. I think that's pretty cool. There's also a whole very professional, detailed video course that I have on my website that teaches you all of the methods that I've learned to conjure demons step by step. And that is in the description of this video. If you would like more advanced lessons from me, it's all in that video course in the description of the video for you to conjure demons. So other ways that can help you to see demons and spirits are going to be putting things in the literal environment that they can interact with. So that's going to be stuff like fire, where the spirit can go into the fire energy, or incense smoke, and the spirit can use the smoke as a medium to go into. And of course, you would want to ask the spirit to appear wherever it is that you're trying to look, so the spirit isn't just sort of coming all over the place. And that's also really important to think about, because that's why I like using something to call the spirit to appear at, so they know where to appear instead of in just some random place. And that's really important to like have those things in your setup so you know where to look, because the spirit could be behind you or something, right? Like if you don't ask for it to appear in a certain place. And that's all part of the spells that you're doing. And those methods are really great for seeing spirits, especially if you are recording it. I do a lot of ritual work for clients and I record it on video. So I will see in the smoke different really interesting shapes that appear, often ones that look like the spirit I called. I remember not too long ago there was one where I called Mott, and the smoke or the fire was, it looked almost exactly like my Mott statue that I had, and it was really stunning. So that was really cool. And so that's one thing also that you can do. But you're also going to want to, outside of your rituals, do things to develop your astral senses. And so those are things like meditating and doing visualizations. So actively trying to imagine things around you, your energy fields, all of this kind of stuff where we're imagining energy from above flowing down into us as part of meditation practices, like in the middle pillar exercise, for example, from Israel Regardie, or even doing things like pentagram rituals where you are using your breath and an athame or your hand to draw and trace the pentagram in the air, and then you are visualizing that. When we do these things, it helps activate our overall astral senses in visualization. So even though it is something that you are willing yourself to visualize and see during that aspect of magic, it opens your mind up to being able to perceive and comprehend other things that can appear that were not there. Because when you do these exercises and rituals, you're supposed to be visualizing different things around you, thus making them part of your reality, thus making them real. And so that really helps to activate things that can come in, that you can perceive. And then you might start sensing other things around you and seeing other things come through. So that is quite valuable. And another method that I really liked from reading the Carlos Castaneda material is working with the peripheral vision. So when you are looking for the spirits to see outside in the outside corners of your eyes and looking at it from here and here and then bringing that in. I was speaking to one of the people that I help that are my clients that I mentor. And if you do want help from me, there's also a link to where you can book a time with me in the video description. So, and I was telling him about this, and he had mentioned that you see things, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I remember after that, when I was a kid, how I would see things too in my peripheral vision. Like I would be watching television as a child, and there was this staircase and a hallway kind of like beside me. And that's where I would always see these spirits going up and down the stairs, but only when I was looking this way and outside of my peripheral vision. And that's a big aspect that in the Carlos Castaneda material, they talk about you start off with the outside parts of your eye and focus on there. And then you take that and then you bring it in. So you're like moving your focus inward, and it changes the way that you see. And it will open up your vision to seeing more things like orbs, spiritual forms. And another aspect of it too is when we're working with the mind's eye, stuff isn't necessarily going to immediately appear in the room around us. So it can appear in your mind, and then you can take that and project it outward, because your mind is also what everything in reality comes from. So it works in that way as well. That was quite a few different tips on what it's like to see demons and spirits and how to do that and activate that in your life. If you are watching this and you have some more suggestions for people, feel free to leave those in the comments to let people know something else that could be helpful for their ability to see spirits in their rituals. And if you would like direct help from me or to check out all my online video courses for more advanced lessons, please find all those things linked in the description of this video. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you to my channel members and my patrons. Please subscribe if you're new, give this video a like, to help the algorithm, and I'll see you next time. Bye.